Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We hope you're having a wonderful day so far. And my name is Jennifer Stoddard. I'm the account manager here in Chattanooga with Flat Earth Networking. And on behalf of our entire team, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. We truly appreciate your presence here today for the Lunch and Learn. We're absolutely thrilled to have such a great turnout here and to learn and connect and, of course, have some really good barbecue, because you can't go wrong with barbecue, right? Before we dive in, I want to quickly go over the agenda for today. So we'll start with a brief introduction of Flat Earth. So for those of you who might not be familiar with us, your questions are vital, so please feel free to jot them down and we'll answer them at the end. But a little bit about us, I'll take a minute just to share about what we do. So Flat Earth is a local cybersecurity consultancy. What sets us apart is our commitment to understanding your business needs and working with your existing technology team to fill any gaps in your cybersecurity program. We believe in the power of continuous learning and fostering strong relationships, which is why we have events like today's Lunch and Learn, packed with insightful presentations, engaging discussions that are so important to us. We're always looking for ways to engage with our community, share knowledge, and grow together. Now on to the main event. We are incredibly fortunate to have with us today Jenny Finet. She will be talking to us today about cyber insurance. She'll be sharing insights on this, and this is a topic that is not only timely, but also crucial. We're confident that you'll leave today's session with valuable knowledge and actionable takeaways. Without further ado, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Jenny Finet.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you, Jenny.
So I'll just start with a little bit of background about myself, so you feel a little more comfortable receiving knowledge from somebody like me. But I have been a specialty wholesale cyber insurance broker for about 20 years, but effectively really since 2008, I would say. You know, in 2008, cyber insurance was a fairly new concept. The application was 100 pages long and the premium was about 100 grand, right? So it has come down a lot, and we'll talk about kind of the evolution of the cyber market a little bit. But so basically, I serve as kind of a resource to teams like McGriff here in Chattanooga. Lindy and I work very closely together, and the rest of their very talented team at McGriＦ Insurance here in town. And so they will bring me in on a deal when there's some complexity to it in the cyber placement. And you know, I will work with them and sometimes directly with folks like you to make sure that we understand the risk properly and that we properly place your insurance for you. And also, you know, a lot of the cyber markets are wholesale only. So in order for Lindy to access them, they have to go through somebody like us. You know, we serve as kind of a filter for some of these specialty cyber insurance carriers. And if you don't mind, slip into the next one. So here's kind of what I had in mind to go over with you guys. And I really don't mind if you want to interrupt me and ask questions as we go. So, you know, I'll talk a little bit about the risk landscape, you know, where we're seeing the threats coming from, you know, and claim activity. You know, we can talk about insurance premiums, what those costs are looking like these days, what the claims are costing these days, the cyber insurance market, how that's been changing. In your favor, spoiler alert, it's getting cheaper and cheaper every day, despite claim activity going way up. And we'll talk about why that is too. And then we'll talk about common cyber vulnerabilities, where we're seeing the vulnerabilities that are leading to the claims, and kind of what the insurance market determines as the essential controls, what they're looking for when you submit your, you know, application for cyber insurance. So, you know, things are definitely evolving. It's not just China, Russia, Iran anymore. You know, we're seeing threats coming out of India, you know, targeting particularly Pakistan and China. And even here in the US, there is a rising threat network going on in the US, in the English-speaking world, the UK, Australia, England, US. And there's plenty of new tactics and strategies. So third-party attacks, I'm going to emphasize that here because that's where we're seeing a lot of activity and vulnerability. I don't know if any of you were flying when the CrowdStrike went down. I woke up in Chicago on a Friday, and they told me I wasn't allowed to fly home till Tuesday. I got the last flight out on Southwest because Southwest didn't use CrowdStrike. I was very happy, but yeah, I don't know if y'all have flown through Midway or O'Hare, but Midway was bumping because everybody had to reroute to Southwest. But CrowdStrike, they had a faulty software update, and it took, CrowdStrike is a massive vendor, took down, lots of people. United, I think, lost millions and millions of dollars. And there was a lot of litigation that goes down that. So, as we evolve and new technologies are deployed that we are using, and, when those individual vendors go down, they take everyone down with them. So, and I'll go on over that in the next slide in further detail, but incremental data manipulation. We're talking about tiny little takes. Like if you've seen Office Space, it's the pennies from the jar, right? Like those types of attacks we're seeing more of that. Public company attacks for insider information, for stock price manipulation, things like that. And AI. I mean, of course, everyone is talking about AI, and what AI really does is makes these attacks a lot easier to deploy. I mean, it's automated, right? Some schmo in their basement, can figure it out, and it just makes it easier to attack, so there's more attacks, and they're attacking smaller and smaller targets. So really, no one is safe, as they say. The next slide, please. And these are just some of the third-party vendor attacks. And I'm highlighting this because I spent a lot of my last year on these types of attacks. So Go Anywhere, Move It Transfer, these were file transfer products that were hacked. Change Healthcare was a massive one. And CDK, this was the software management platform that was used by more than half of the auto dealerships in the country. And it took them down depending on how much they relied on this software. We had clients that were down for weeks, not selling cars, not pushing cars. And in fact, I had an auto title agent reach out to me like, yo, do I get cyber coverage for this? Because all my clients are down, so I'm not making any money either. And I was like, no, that's not how cyber works, but because they did not suffer a breach, and also their client was losing money. It wasn't like a downed, attack or anything like that. But that's too much in the weeds. But anyways, so it's very important when you are engaging with your vendors that you make sure that you are, doing your due diligence in terms of what, risk management they do. So this is a quick little checklist, and we will almost certainly share this with you, so you don't have to take notes. But, make sure your vendors have risk management programs, information security policies and procedures, security assessments, incident response, business interruption plans. I will tell you that, across the board, generally speaking, these security vendors, they have to get insurance too. They come to somebody like me to place those insurance. Managed service providers, cybersecurity firms, things like that. We are scrutinizing their controls very carefully. Not all of them are as good as they should be, frankly. So you want to make sure that you're vetting that when you do, because you are relying on them. But at the end of the day, human error is human error. So there's only so much controls can do. There's still going to be vulnerability. I'm trying to think of an example, but I think the MGM, the big cyber hack that happened with those guys, we were on part of that claim, and someone just called pretending like they needed a password update. They were an employee, and that's how they got in. It was all through the customer service line. Okay, next slide, please. So this is from the 2024 Net Diligence report. Very useful little report if you're nerdy like me and want to see the way that claims are trending. And it's just kind of a quick and dirty of what these claims are costing, right? And they break it down between small and mid-sized companies, which they are saying is an average of $33 million in revenue, and then the large companies, $13.3 billion in revenue. So, crisis services, that's offering credit monitoring, things like that. PR, if you've got, a PR like nightmare because everyone's data got hacked or whatever. Legal and regulatory, you have to contract a law firm and, comply with privacy laws and things like that and regulatory requirements. And then, just the cost of the incident, the loss, or whatever it is. And you can see as you go down the list here, the average costs go up and up, right? So ransomware is the big, problem here. It is by far our source of, the most severe claims. I'm working on a very large, $200 million in revenue medical biller, and they had a $10 million ransomware claim. It took them down. And they can be really massive. And really go ahead.
They pay in Bitcoin?
Yeah, the ransom usually gets paid in Bitcoin. Yeah, and that's part of the value of insurance. And I'll just do my plug for cyber insurance real fast. The value of cyber insurance is not just financial risk transfer. It's not just somebody writing the check. It is having all of the vendors pre-vetted in place, to help you deal with the risk. There's a lot of moving parts to these cyber claims, right? There's the lawyers that have to get involved to make sure that you're compliant. There's the forensics people that need to figure out what the hell happened. There is the, call centers that need to do the credit monitoring services. And it's always going to be more, cost effective to have that pre-vetted than to try and scramble and figure it out. But in terms of where the loss is, what drives the ransomware losses in particular is business interruption. How much revenue you lose while you're down because of a ransomware attack. And when people ask me about benchmarking, what limits should I, carry, think about how much revenue you would lose on for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, what that number is, how much revenue you would lose. And that's what you want to think about in terms of your limit exposure. We've got, some of our bigger risks that are, would fall in that large company, if they go down, or these car dealerships, the car dealerships that I had that had the really severe CDK loss where their vendor took them down, they weren't able to sell cars. Those were $5 million, $6 million losses. They weren't pushing cars. That's lost revenue. So I would really focus on that when you're thinking about what type of limit that you want to carry. And these are kind of the top 5 business sectors where we're seeing claims. And again, it comes down to who's the most vulnerable. How much can we shake them down for money? Like how severe is the loss going to be if we take them down? Obviously, healthcare is clear. And then manufacturing is a big one too. You take down those plants, and they're going to lose a lot of money if they're not pushing cars or widgets or whatever they're selling, right? And professional services, that's kind of a catch-all. Retail and financial services. These are the top 5 causes of loss in terms of severity. Ransomware, ransomware, ransomware. It is pervasive and it is severe. Usually those claims, that's where we see the high dollar claims going. Business email compromise, that's how they're getting in a lot of times. I'm sure every single one of you has had some experience with business email compromise, right? Some of our insurance carriers have suffered losses from CNA, excuse me. And accident fund have had losses. So not even insurance companies who should have the best controls in the world, people, we are humans, we are trying to do our job as well as we can, right? I had one, I've had several claims actually like this, where they change one, thing in the email address. It's, Leonard, but it's a 1 instead of an L. And if you're going really fast, you don't notice it. And I've seen a lot of claims like that. Wire transfer fraud. This is by far our most frequent claim and can be very severe as well. And this is, what we call social engineering. So someone tricks somebody else into wiring vast amounts of money. And sometimes it's small, sometimes they hit them multiple times. I've had 3 CFOs fired because of social engineering losses, and it's icky. But I mean, if they get really nasty with like global acquisition activity, there's an acquisition going on, it's hot and heavy, emails are flying around, and people are trying to do their job, and it comes time to wire the money for the transaction. The CFO wired $6 million, and it was gone. But it's nickel and dime. We'll see. Anytime there's wire transfers, and there's certain classes of business that do more of it than others. Like real estate or attorneys, things like that. We have real estate clients that are wiring millions and millions of dollars a week. And there are standalone products for that exposure, BT dubs, that if you have a high volume of wire transfer, your crime policy is only going to have 100,000, 250,000 in limits. That's not going to do you any good. Go ahead.
It's interesting to me why they wouldn't require a wire transfer over X amount of dollars to be sent. The Bitcoin community, they all know you send it to a new address, $1.
Yeah.
You wait to get that verified.
Yeah.
I think that would be a requirement.
Oh, it is. So for a while, for the insurance to trigger, and his question is like, why aren't there requirements for, wire transfer? We do, like one of the questions that is going to be asked of you when you apply for cyber insurance is, do you have an authentication process in place, dual authentication? We want you calling separately. You don't want responding to the email. When I bought a house, I called 6 times because I've seen so many claims. I was like, I am not wiring this money until I quadruple check that this is not going down, because title agents have been targeted because of this, right? So yes, in terms of applying for cyber insurance, they absolutely want you to make sure that you have an authentication process. And in fact, some cyber policies, the more restrictive ones, the only way your claim gets covered is if you tried to authenticate it. Now, a good broker will not let you have that. You definitely want to check your policies, because Coalition is a major cyber insurance carrier. Out the gate, they will put that requirement on there. And to me, that nullifies the coverage, because you're supposed to have insurance when you screw up, right? Like when you don't do what you're supposed to, authenticate the transfer. But no, we're humans. We're trying to get our job done. Somebody is like, oh, it's my job to get that done as fast as possible. This, acquisition's a big deal. We got to get this done, and it just goes to the wrong place. But yeah, 3 CFOs fired.
With AI too, they can call you.
Oh yeah. Oh, and they're so They're so smart. They're so smart about it. It's scary. And then this looks way more volatile than it actually is, because I'm bad at PowerPoint. But 4% to negative 2%. So rates, insurance rates are relatively flat despite the ransomware activity really going up. And basically what that means for you is it's a favorable buyer's market. So it's going to change at some point. Right now, there is just a ton of private equity money in cyber insurance. Everybody wants a piece of it. It's a hot investment. They're going to put everything on the books until it goes to hell, and then they're going to sell it. Or they're going to try and sell it before that happens. But at some point, and I've read all the think pieces. At the beginning of the year, people were like, it's definitely going up by 4th quarter. And then the next guy's like, it's not going up by 4th quarter. My opinion is this year you're safe. Like I expect rates to continue to be flat. I've seen some limit losses this year that I've gotten decreases on, which doesn't make sense at all. But if they want to take the decrease, I'm happy to give that to our clients, right? So very favorable cyber insurance market, and coverage is broader too. So we call it a soft market, where it's a buyer's market. Of course you want to get premium savings, but you also want to make sure that you're maxing out your coverage. So work with people like Lindy to make sure that you're getting full limit of everything you can get full limit, because the market will change, and it's a lot harder to take coverage away than it is to add it when the market changes. So these are kind of the top 10 cyber insurers. And I highlight this because the more complex or severe the loss, the more experience that you want your cyber carrier to be, right? So, any risk over like 500 million in revenue, there is no way I'm not placing them with Chubb, Fairfax Financial, or XO. Those guys have the most experience with complex claims, And I would put the most trust in them to handle your claims. At the end of the day, what I sell is claims handling, right? Like, anybody can write a check. We do not want you to have a bad experience with your claim. And cyber claims are gnarly. Those business interruption mediations take months, and they are not pleasant. And you do not want to do that by yourself. So you buy insurance so that you don't have to do that. And you connect with people like Lindy and I to help you through that process. Very important. I would say I know you can get cyber solutions online through Hiscox or somebody like that, but you lose the benefit of having people help you through that process. And I spend a lot of non-revenue generating time. I don't make money off helping people with claims, but at the end of the day, that's what we're here to do. Okay, next slide. So just a kind of quick rundown, and you probably understand all of this, but I will just go over it quickly. Business email compromise, that's how they gain information, that's how they gain access, passwords, et cetera. And phishing, social engineering, that's by phone, by email, by carrier pigeon. They're trying to trick you into giving them sensitive information and access. Insecure remote access, when COVID happened, all of a sudden, remote access had to be deployed very quickly, and it didn't go well. There was a lot of vulnerabilities. So now when you apply for cyber insurance, the first thing they do is scan for open or exposed ports that people could use to gain access, right, to your system. Compromised networks via public exploits. So these are kind of like widely used software platforms. Like Log4j is basically this open source software that's just logging each individual action. Jenny pressed the pound button, Jenny pressed the space bar, and it's used by IT folks to kind of do forensics and things like that. Someone accessed that and used it to gain access to people's servers, and they sat there for a month before it was detected. So things like that. And then of course supply chain attacks, which is what I talked about earlier, and where I saw a lot of it was a new access point where I was seeing a particular amount of claim activity. All right, so this is the key 4 things that all of my carriers are looking for. For certain difficult classes like tech service providers, if you don't have these, they're not going to offer you insurance, or they're going to put exclusions or limitations on the coverage until you get these things in place. You can click to the next one. So MFA, multi-factor authentication. A lot of you probably already deal with this in your jobs, where you have to enter something on your phone to get access or whatever it may be. But basically, they want 2 forms of authentication, and there's 3 forms of MFA that are considered critical. So remote network, when you log into your VPN. Email access, and then the higher level access, the administrative access, because obviously that's the most vulnerable. And I've just listed a laundry list of providers here. EDR, continuous monitoring and data collection on end users to detect potential cyber threats. So basically, think of it as kind of a security guard that's monitoring the traffic and also logging the traffic for forensic purposes to kind of figure out where the breach happened. And I will tell you, this is getting more scrutiny. It matters more and more which EDR provider that you use. I had an account yesterday that I was working on, another medical biller. They're related to the other one, but basically the guy was like, nah, their EDR provider sucks. They got to use somebody better than that. And I was like, okay. So it is a question. They're going to ask you what vendors you're using. And they've had issues with some vendors. They've seen particular claim activity with some vendors more than others. And there have been there's been a lot of high-end conversations, high-level conversations with those providers and the insurance carriers so that they can get on the same page. And again, used some common providers here. Robust backup strategy. This is where that business interruption loss comes into play, right? We need to make sure that if you get hacked, if you have a ransomware attack, that you can get back up and running as quickly as possible. So isolated backups from the networks, right? Cloud-based on a physical server at another location. A cloud-based backup is always going to be faster to upload than those old school tapes. 3-2-1, keep 3 copies of your data on 2 different devices, 1 offsite storage solution. Backup regularly, test regularly. And these are all going to be questions on the application and going to be vetted by prospective insurance carriers. And encryption, of course. And then email filtering, right? Business email compromise is a leading source of claims. So we want to make sure that you have a filtering process in place that's going to try and keep out that suspicious links, malware, et cetera. Is that it? Oh, look at me. I don't know how long that took. But yeah, I mean, I'm just going to reiterate. Well, I think I'll add some third-party exposures too we're seeing. So in general, when I started writing this type of insurance in 2010, it was all about the record count. Like, what's the record exposure? I have 300 million, or no, not 300 million. We need to talk about that too. We have 2,000 customers. It's going to cost us $300 per customer to notify them. That's where my limit needs to be. The majority of losses now are recordless losses. It's ransomware, it's social engineering. We still do see attacks where records are breached, but it's coming from a lot more other sources. On the record count, and this is still, even though I think it's a little outdated, record count is still kind of a key underwriting factor, what they're going to rate your insurance on. People get the record count wrong every time. I was telling this about a risk. What was it? It was some sort of health information exchange. Basically, it was kind of a database for healthcare providers to share information. And they put on their application, this was a $2 million software provider. And they told me that they had 300 million records. That doesn't make sense. That's 1/3 of the population of the US, right? So I asked for a call with the insured. And what we're looking for with a record count is the unique record count. I had 2 babies at my hospital. There's probably 3,000 things with my name on it and my social security. But they're not going to have to call me 2,000 times to tell me that there was a breach. It's 1. I am 1 record. No matter how many pieces of paper, no matter how many emails or files, I am 1 record. So make sure that when you think about that number, it's a unique count. And for it to rise to the level of a record, it has to be personally identifiable information, PII. It has to be 2 pieces of information, your name and a social security number, your name and an account number, your name, and it has to be identifiable with 1 person. A lot of times people think that they're personally identifiable, let's say an account number. But an account number is nothing if there's not a name attached to it, right? It has to be, there has to be something there connecting the dots. So it is by far the thing that I correct the most on applications is record count. And I've gotten pretty good at knowing where record counts should be for various classes of business. But if your revenues are 2 million, it's very low likelihood that it's a 300 million in records. And BT Dubs, it was actually like 1.5 in an actual unique record. So if you don't correct that, and in this case, the prior broker had not corrected it, the premium was way higher than it needed to be. So make sure you get that number correct. And that's my PSA for that. But any questions I can answer?
We have a question from the live stream.
Okay.
At what point during a cyber event should a company engage with their cyber insurance?
Immediately. Yeah. I mean, within 24 hours, a lot can get done. And they move very quickly. Now, to be within the terms of the policy, for your policy to trigger, there are certain rules that you have to abide by, right? Or else the coverage is not. Like if you wait 2 years and be like, oh shit, I forgot to tell you, like we had this ransomware attack and it cost us $500,000 last year. Like that's not gonna work. Like that's not how insurance works, right? We wanna be there and involved to mitigate the risk. So by the terms of the policy, usually you do have to report the incident within the policy term, or the broader policies have 30 days after, 60 days after, 90 days after. In practicality, the policy says as soon as practicable. We all understand that you as insureds need to digest this. Like, this has happened to us. Oh God, I need to talk to the CFO. I need to talk to the CTO. What happened here? Like, we get that. Like, we get you need to have some internal conversations. But the sooner that you report this, the sooner we can, our carriers can help you, right? You know, I got a call. I write the largest wholesale insurance, wholesale grocery in the world. They're are in the US, I guess. They're like 22 billion in revenue. And at 3:30 in the afternoon on a Friday, I got a call from the producer freaking out because they had a ransomware attack. And something like this is gonna be a massive claim, right? Our carrier called them within the hour to get on it. So we wanna respond quickly, and they will respond quickly. And also, you know, if you're really nervous about it and wanna know like how a cyber claim is gonna play out if it happens to you, set up a call. Like, I don't know why people don't ask me of this more than they do, because I love these calls. Like, when you talk to the insurance carriers and they tell you exactly how the claim is gonna play out, and you're like, this is gonna happen first and then this, don't worry, we got you. It was very like comforting, I thought. So if you feel like you wanna do that, like the carriers are willing to do that. And you know, Lindy will call me and I'll call them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Talking about calls. So it's from kind of an employee benefit. So let's say that an employer submits all of the data for insurance to a carrier like Blue Cross Blue Shield or Cigna, right? And the information comes from the employer to the carrier, and then the carrier gets hacked. Can the employer, because they're the ones who send the information to the carrier, be liable?
Yep. It's who owns the records is who is liable. So those are your records. It is not Blue Cross Blue Shield's records. So what's going to happen is you're going to be responsible under regulatory privacy laws to notify and do all that rigmarole. You're going to sue Blue Cross Blue Shield for those costs, or your insurance carrier is going to subrogate, right? But at the end of the day, you know, this goes down to vetting those third-party vendors. What if their insurance lapsed? You know, what if they tap out their limits or go bankrupt? That happens too. You know,
So the employer should get from their carrier all the information, such as, you know, what is your policies and procedures?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I worked at a carrier before, and I only had like that request from 2 or 3 employers.
Yeah. It's not being done enough. And I will say this feels like a very present and more recent problem, but it's just because technology is evolving so quickly and we're relying on it more and more to do business day to day. We're relying on these very excellent software solutions that make our jobs easier, but it also makes us a little bit more vulnerable.
So it's good to offer identity theft.
I mean, that's built into your insurance. So if you have cyber insurance, identity theft coverage will be offered. I mean, most broad policies have that. Some of the narrower policies. There's some real garbage cyber policies on there. If it's tacked on to your general liability, it's not good. It is almost useless. So there's almost never first-party coverage, and that's like, it's usually just liability coverage. So I lost $50 because my identity got stolen, stuff like that. It's not covering those restoration costs, the forensics costs, all those kind of first business interruption costs. So if it's tacked on, it's probably not worthwhile. Really, if you're, you know, a risk of size or complexity, you want to be on that with one of those carriers on that list. At minimum, you really need to go through an insurance broker to properly vet those policies for you. It's going to be more expensive, I would say. The minimum premium for a cyber policy is between $1,500 and $2,500 for $1 million limit, but it's going to actually pay a claim. If you pay, you know, you get what you pay for, right? If you pay $250 to tack something on, it's going to be a very minimal value.
I have a question.
Sure.
As a small to mid-sized business, I have a feeling that applying for cyber insurance does sound complex, right? It can be very complex. If there was an assessment or a tool that someone who is applying for cyber insurance could take or use, and then hand the results over to you or Lindy, would that be a simple process?
Yes, and actually I often will request copies of those, especially if on the face of it they don't look strong. So yes, any upfront work you can do, like we really love to see smaller to mid-sized businesses contracting with third-party firms to help them get their controls in place. That means that they're taking the, like Flat Earth, that makes it clear that they're taking care of it, they're thinking about it properly, because most of the small to mid-sized companies don't have the resources to properly deploy the tools that they need. So it's a question on the application as well. Do you have a third-party, service provider that's helping you with that? A managed service provider, or cybersecurity, things like that. That's something we want to see for sure.
Another question on the live stream. Would you recommend calling law enforcement, general counsel, or your insurance agent first?
That's a great question. I don't think it matters too much, because if I were the insured, I would do 3 of those in quick succession. Law enforcement needs to be notified. I'm sure if you call the carrier first, they're going to ask you, have you notified law enforcement, right? Your general counsel, sure, if I were insured, I'd want to talk to my attorney first, always, I get it. So yeah, do what you need to do, but the insurance carrier will be there for you until the end of your policy period. After that, they're going to be like, nah, you're denied. You didn't turn this in on time. But just the sooner you can get to the carrier, the better the opportunity. Because we do recover funds. If you get on it quickly enough, law enforcement or the banks or whatever, they can scoop some of those transferred funds back. Obviously expediency is key, but in practice that's just really hard to do, and we understand that. I have seen insureds not turn claims in for a month and a half, because they were just anxious about it. Like, people are afraid to use their insurance, which I get. You're like, oh, I'm going to cause the insurance price to go up or double or whatever. Don't worry about that. Let me worry about that. Let Lindy worry about that. I guarantee you it's probably not going to be that bad, even if it's a really bad loss, because the market is so lousy right now. Take advantage of what you bought. Like, take advantage. Use their insured counsel. Let them take the reins. This is what you paid for, and this is the benefit that you're getting with it. Turn the claim in. Even if it's a stolen laptop, it's something silly, you think it's like gonna go away for under $1,000, turn it in. There is no downside. I'm telling you, there is no downside. And if there is, it is not your problem. It's Lindy's problem and it's my problem to negotiate your next terms. And we will, and we're really good at this.
You had mentioned earlier about having a set of resources that the insurance has already paid for companies, like for remediation and other things. Does it behoove a business owner to call their insurance company and ask for that list? Can they get that list?
Yeah, they can get that list. Yeah. I don't get that request often, but yeah, absolutely. Another service that Lindy and I will give you is we're vetting those insurance carriers, we're vetting their vendors to make sure that they're handling a claim. There is a insurance carrier that I really don't like. I have had very bad experience on their claims handling. It's Cowbell. It's an insurtech, very competitively priced. The limits look great, but the claims handling is not as strong as it could be. It's definitely not Chubb. It's not Excel. They're not on that top 10 for a reason. So, yeah, I think I lost the thread a little bit. But yeah, like you can vet those vendors. But really, a good insurance broker will be doing that for you. I will not place a piece of business with Cowbell because of that. Honestly, Coalition right now is on my shit list. Pardon my French. But I've had 2 claims go on my list that we needed to push. Like, they covered the claim. We got the claims covered. But we wanted to, but it was a little bit slow.
Are you going to be sending these slides?
Yeah. So we're keeping that in mind, and if they start performing badly, we let them know. So my team alone writes $80 million in cyber insurance premium. We're the largest, my company as a whole, not just my team. We're the second largest cyber insurance broker in the country. When we get pissed, they care. So, and we will let them know. And we've already had conversations to get things shaped up. Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that unlike auto insurance, your cyber insurance agent and broker is really truly your best
I'm such a good friend. No. You know, it's just, you know, it's a more technical product than auto, right? Auto is fairly straightforward. I don't care who my auto carrier is, other than it's a big carrier. I think mine's with Erie. But I am not looking that closely at the insurance policy. There's not a lot of variance in a personal auto policy. There is a lot of variance in a cyber insurance policy. It really behooves you to connect with a professional that can help you navigate that. Because I see a lot of garbage placements. One of my favorite things to do, like, I don't care about the commission. I like beating up other people's work. It makes me feel special. So, and you know, I see a lot of placements that are not okay. You know, for example, this medical billing company, they didn't have any regulatory coverage. You know, if you overbill Medicaid, they're going to sue you for millions of dollars. No regulatory coverage. The placement is a $400,000 premium, and no regulatory coverage. You know, or we had one that had, you know, I see a lot of smaller placements with like Hartford that have no they have no first-party coverage. So, yeah, I cannot emphasize enough, this is not like a bargain basement, pick something off the bottom shelf type of product. Any other questions?
That was good.
No, good, I'm glad.
That was great.
I spent a lot of time on this. Thanks for listening to me. Yeah.
That was great. So before we wrap up today, I just want to express my sincere gratitude for you all to be here today. I hope you found it very insightful, engaging, and please know that our doors are always open. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us in the future. And again, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the barbecue and everything that Jenny had shared with us today. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you.